Yo, what is poppin', ladies and gents? I'm back here again with another Unordinary video. This time I will be talking about the potential of John's ability, and I'll also be talking about Serafina's ability a little bit in this video. It's not really going to be a direct comparison. It's just going to be me talking about both of their potentials, per se, is the best way to really put it. I'll just be discussing like how fast each of them actually progressed in their ability level. Then I'll be talking about John's ability, like the things that he could do. Like, obviously we know what he can do, but it's also gonna be like me clarifying a few things. But I'm also gonna be talking about in the future when he does level up, like what can he actually do with his ability when he's at a higher level. And I also will be covering his true ability level, along with does his ability truly corrupt his mind, because a lot of people seem to think that John's ability has to do directly with him acting this way. So other than all that, let's hop right into it. We've already seen what John is capable of, being able to copy abilities, and from what we're shown, he can hold up to 4 abilities, being able to amp them by 1.5 times to each stat. And just something I noticed, I don't think the stats are added to each other. Instead, John takes the highest stat from each ability and he copies those and multiplies them. He can then merge the abilities together, so that's also another part of his ability that's really amazing. John's potential is crazy looking back at it, how fast he grew, shooting up from a 1.2 to a 7 in a matter of barely 2 years. Serafina even compares herself to John, saying they were the same, both being a level 7 by the time they were second years. But this is where she's mixing things up. In the aspect of being the same level by their second year, they were the same, but they definitely didn't grow even close to the same pace. It took me some time to think whether John or Serafina had more potential, but then I thought about it and it hit me while scripting this video. John grew this fast in 2 years, but of course he had the help of Claire and her visions, but this doesn't take away from the hard work, because at the same time he was still studying his ability online and just learning how to use other abilities, and he was also working on his fighting ability while fighting everybody else in school trying to rank up. When you look at Serafina though, she's in a somewhat similar situation. Her mom and her sister both have the same ability as her, so she would be able to learn the ways to use her ability, and instead of having to figure it all out on her own, she just has somebody like teach her, oh, this is something that you could do with your ability. You could freeze time, you could reverse your healing, all that extra stuff. You get what I'm saying? So in terms of resources, they were both equal in the case of having someone help them learn about their ability. So, who has more potential between these two if we compare growth? It would be obvious with John having more potential, since from what we know, Serafina had her ability a lot longer. When I reread episode 110, Serafina and John have a conversation saying, "You've had combat training before, right? I assume all high tiers would at some point." "Yeah. My parents assigned me an instructor when I was very young, but I haven't practiced since early grade school. Once my ability started developing, I was forced to put all my efforts on my ability mastery instead." If I'm basing my hypothesis off this, it would mean Serafina started to develop her ability from around late elementary school and early middle school. John developed his around the time he graduated middle school. This is giving Serafina about 3 to 5 years on John, estimating that late elementary would be 4th grade or 5th grade, because Sarah said she didn't practice since early elementary, which would be around K through 2nd or 3rd grade. If she developed it during 6th grade, that would still give her 3-ish years advantage, so Serafina would have taken about 7-ish years to potentially get to a 7, and by now, her 3rd year, she's an 8. John has only had his ability since about the end of 8th grade, so John now has had his ability for about 4-ish years. During the time in the flashback arc of John's past, we see him growing from the first time using his ability, being able to barely match the person he was trying to copy, but this is because he just gained his ability. Then during the summer leading into 9th grade, they focused their efforts into researching John's ability with the help of Adrian being the test subject, John figuring out his ability in a week's time. During this time until his 9th grade year ends, John can copy abilities but doesn't know he can amplify them or copy multiple at a time yet. He fights constantly trying to get stronger against other students and learns that he also needs to train his body to handle the recoil from other physical enhancement abilities. By the time John fights Zirian, which he would be close to the end of his first year, he would be a level 3, and Zirian is a level 3.7, but we should already know that John is able to copy abilities of people stronger than him based off this fight alone. When they go on summer break, a few weeks in is when John learns about his ability to amplify other abilities, when Claire tells him, "What do you think it'd be like to have a more powerful version of someone else's ability?" This is when John learns about aura channels and being able to amp abilities, training the whole summer to use this. When he starts his 2nd year, he fights Zirian and wins, and I think it's safe to assume John was either the same level if not higher. I'd say he's about a level 4 at this time. After John becomes king, Claire no longer tells him about her visions, so this takes her away from the equation. But it doesn't really matter, because in episode 184, John is definitely at least level 5, because we learn about his past of being able to sense auras. Reaching the threshold of level 5 is when John thinks that he can sense multiple auras so he can copy multiple abilities. We gain insight that soon John is able to hold 2 abilities, and then 3. By the time he's a level 7 in his fight against his new Boston classmates, he only holds 3 abilities, and he's a level 7 at this time. Which leads me to expect, with every level gained in men he can hold 1 more ability. So at level 7, he was able to hold 3 abilities. This is when he gets expelled. So let's talk about now where we are in the story. John is able to hold 4 abilities. I've said this multiple times, the level we're given is the level that John was at when he was expelled from New Boston. Comparatively to Ray, he was a 5.8 when he died. So what I'm trying to say is, in Ray's case, he was a level 5.8 when he died, but in John's case, when he was expelled specifically from New Boston, he was a level 7. Which leads me to my conclusion that John is definitely a level 8. Since it wouldn't make sense, and I think Uruchan has thought about this, that John gains a new slot with every single level. There is also the possibility that John's ability has slots, or when he reaches a specific threshold in the aspect, he can copy as much as he wants, but when he hits a certain level after amping them, that's it. I've thought about this before, but when I take a look back into the story, I think the idea of gaining a new slot every single time he levels up makes more sense. My theory is, with every level, John can hold 1 more ability. Since in the Royals fight, he had 4 abilities and couldn't copy Arlo's, not because it was another high level ability, but because 4 was actually his limit. I think this is the right track because using the flashback as reference, Claire never said he can use as many abilities as he wants, but instead, he could use a specific number. Now, I want to move into the topic of how John's ability can grow from here. I've had theories relating to this, such as maybe in the future the amplification rate will go from a 1.5 times to a 2 times. Of course, he can hold another slot with another level, so 5 at level 9. But I also have the thought of, what if when John reaches full mastery over his ability, he can copy abilities he's used in the past? This is because we need to remember that John manipulates his aura channels in order to match the person he's copying, in order to use their ability. What if in the future, let's say maybe level 9 or 10, John gains a new attribute along with the 3 he already has. He's able to manipulate his body's aura freely, even without someone activating their ability. What if instead, because he copied Zeke's phase shift or Arlo's barrier in the past, without them even being there or activating their ability, he remembers what it's like to use it. So, he manipulates his aura channels and uses their ability without them even being there. I think John's ability potential is way higher than Seraphina's, all bias aside. The reason for John having more potential not only lies in his growth speed of hitting a level 7 in 2 years and now level 8 in possibly 3 to 4, because for all we know, he grew to a level 8 during his year off from school because when he fights at New Boston, he only uses 3 abilities, but against the Royals, he uses 4. So either he became an 8 during the time period of his year off, or maybe he became an 8 after resuming the use of his ability between the time of fighting Arlo and fighting the Royals. There is also the case that John can, I will say wholeheartedly, copy Seraphina's ability, so of course he just have a stronger version. I see this argument even now. John can't copy abilities he can't see, and to that I gotta say, shut up and learn to read, because if you learned anything in this video or read the same series I did, you would know it's not about if he can visually see it. He has the ability to sense aura and manipulate his own to match it. Abilities like Claire and Junie, Claire's is random, so that factor alone invalidates the whole thing with copying hers, because even Claire can't activate hers when she wants to. Junie, we don't know if for sure John couldn't copy it or he just didn't need it, because 1, her ability lets her see a second into the future, but from what we've seen, she can't continuously do this, so there's probably a cooldown period, which makes it pretty useless, since she was already struggling to take on John with her ability and before he copied one anyway, because when John attacked her, he didn't have an ability until he went into the cafeteria. I do want to tackle this last topic before I end this video, and it's something I've seen pretty often in not only the comment section, but it's also been brought up around my group, Joker Animations. This revolves around the idea that John's ability degrades his mental, or just makes him act more aggressive, and to this, I'll debunk it with a simple answer of this is just purely untrue. When you look at the flashbacks, Claire says, aside from the occasional beatdown, I was pretty content with the way things were, but I was a bit concerned for John. He often seemed frustrated and angry. John says, don't you guys think it's unfair? Why do we have to deal with all this bullshit while other people get to do whatever they want just because they were born stronger? It's so stupid. Claire ends this off with saying the same thing that John's dad said. John had a lot of trouble coming to terms with reality. This all happens in episode 181, prior to John getting his ability, so if you don't already understand, let me explain. John was already angry and frustrated with society and those stronger than him. In an older chapter, remember when John says, "If I had the power to fight back, I would"? The statement holds just as much weight as what I've read off before. This is exactly what John did when he got his hands on power. He beat down those people who used to do the same thing to him. John was always this way. This developed because of his hatred towards society's system along with the bullying he took on. John's ability has nothing to do with the result of his anger. If anything, John's anger towards society and those who wronged him is what created this whole issue. John having ability now just gives him the power to vent his anger. It's not the other way around. Examples include episode 132, when John has his conversation with Arlo of destroying the hierarchy, stating it and the high tiers are the problem with the school. Episodes 150 and 151, when John talks about his issue through the school with Remy. Episode 55, when John gets betrayed by Arlo because Arlo wants to force his secret out of him and drag him back into the hierarchy. There are many more examples of John getting angry and his ability is not directly the real influence. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and you enjoyed my reasonings. If you don't agree with me, that's okay. I really don't care, to be honest. I'm just trying to spread some, my knowledge about the story and why I think it is the way it is, because in my head, it makes perfect sense because I look back into the story and I try to decipher a few things. I look back at the things that I said in the past and I try to correct them, because every single episode, well, not every single episode, but every few episodes we're getting new information and I'm just putting the pieces together. So other than all that, I hope you guys like my explanation of why John's ability does not degrade his mentality, why his true level is actually an 8, why he has more potential than Seraphina, and everything else that I got mentioned in this video. Other than all that, check out the artist, my bad. Yo, my mouth is dry as balls right now, actually. Check out the artist Sleepy Dean, because I probably used his art somewhere in this video. Check out Uru-chan's Unordinary, but you probably are already because you're watching this video, aren't you? And subscribe, because my videos be super fire, bro. What else is there to say? But other than all that, like and subscribe, comment down below, join my Discord, everything else. I will have another video eventually soon, so peace out.